It's 3 in the morning. You're awake. Your brain is replaying a conversation from 7 years ago. It's checking whether the door is locked. It's inventing a problem that doesn't exist yet, and then quietly trying to solve it. And you lie there thinking, something is wrong with me. Now take that same person, that same brain, those same eyes that refuse to close, and move them 40,000 years back. Suddenly you're not broken. You're the reason everyone else lives to see the morning. This video is not going to tell you that disorders are fake. It's not going to tell you that you don't need help. It's about something stranger than that. Your brain was never designed for the life you are currently living. It was designed for a group of 30 people. For darkness, for predators, for hunger, and for fire. And almost everything the modern world calls a problem in you. The anxiety, the distraction, the sensitivity, the obsession with detail, the inability to talk to people at parties used to have a function. Not a superpower, not a motivational poster. A job, a role, a place by the fire. The anxious one. Watching the dark, the distracted one. Running through the trees. The quiet one, shaping stone. The sensitive one, frozen, smelling the air. The obsessive one, arranging stones in a perfect line. The sad one, sitting apart, staring at water. 6 people, 6 malfunctions, 1 tribe that survived. Over the next 20 minutes, we're going to walk through every one of those roles. We're going to look at what each of them was for. We're going to look at what happened to them when the world changed underneath their feet. And by the end, you're going to understand something uncomfortable. Your brain didn't change. The environment did. And nobody asked it for permission. Let's start with the thing almost everyone gets wrong. When you hear the words prehistoric tribe, you probably picture a crowd of identical hairy people with clubs, everyone doing the same thing. Hunting, eating, sleeping. A gray mass of survival. That is close to the exact opposite of reality. A hunter-gatherer band is roughly 20 to 50 people, not more. And that number isn't random. It's roughly the limit past which you stop personally knowing every single person you live with. Past which someone can become a stranger while standing next to you. In a group that size, it is impossible to be invisible. Impossible to get lost in the crowd. Every day of your life is witnessed by everyone, which means something brutal. Your strangeness cannot be hidden. If you're too slow, they'll notice. If you're too loud, they'll notice. If you don't sleep at night, if you can't stand sudden noises, if you can't sit still, everyone will know within a week. There is no private life. There is no version of you that only the internet sees. But here's where it gets interesting. In a group of 30 people, you cannot afford to throw anyone away. Every pair of hands is the difference between a winter you survive and a winter you don't. Exile is not a punishment. Exile is an execution with extra steps. So the tribe doesn't ask, how do we make this person normal? The tribe asks a different question. Where is this person most useful? Picture an organism. You have a liver, a heart, eyes, and nerve endings in your fingertips. The liver is not better than the eye. They do different things. And if every cell in your body suddenly decided to become a heart, you would die very quickly and very stupidly. A tribe works the same way. It doesn't survive because everyone is the same. It survives because everyone is different. Researchers who study the evolution of behavior talk about this as a spread of strategies. The idea is simple. In any population, it pays to have several different behavioral types at once because the environment keeps changing. The cautious win in dangerous years. The reckless win in years of plenty. If everyone is cautious, the tribe never crosses the river, never finds the new valley, never learns what is on the other side of the mountain. If everyone is reckless, the tribe dies the first bad winter, confidently, altogether. So variety isn't a charming side effect, it's insurance. It is the reason a group can be wrong about the future and still survive it. And now the idea I want you to hold on to for the rest of this video. Normal is not a biological term. It's a statistical one. It means, like most people. That's all it has ever meant. It tells you nothing about whether you are useful, whether you are right, or whether you are needed. A word that describes the middle of a curve has somehow become a word that describes the worth of a person. And nobody voted on that. It simply happened, quietly, over a few generations. And now it lives inside your head and speaks with your voice at 3 in the morning. In a group of 30, nobody asked whether you were normal. They asked what you could do when nobody else could. And the first person we're going to look at could do something no one else could. She could stay awake. Anxiety is the most slandered emotion in human history. We talk about it like a glitch, like an alarm going off for no reason. You're sitting in a safe apartment, the door is locked, there's food in the fridge, and your body says, run. That looks absurd, but only if you don't understand how alarms work. Think about the smoke detector in your home. It reacts to steam from a kettle. It screams when you fry eggs. You curse at it. You assume it's broken. You've probably taken the battery out of one, at least once, and told yourself you'd put it back. Now do the math. What does a false alarm cost you? A minute of irritation. What does a missed alarm cost you? Everything you have. That is why every protection system nature builds is not tuned for accuracy. It is tuned for the asymmetry of the cost of being wrong. Better to panic at the wind 100 times than to fail to panic at a leopard once. The one who panicked at the wind looked ridiculous and had children. The one who didn't panic that single time had nothing. No children, no line, no descendants sitting somewhere at 3 in the morning wondering why they can't sleep. You are descended from the ones who panicked at the wind. Every single one of them. There is no ancestor in your son who was relaxed at the wrong moment. A branch snaps. She freezes. A shadow moves between the trees. She wakes the man beside her. The eyes in the dark retreat. Morning comes. Everyone is alive. But anxiety isn't just fear. It's a simulation of the future. Your brain at 3 in the morning is not fighting a real danger. It is running scenarios. What if the food runs out? What if he's angry with me? What if they leave and I'm not with them? That is modeling. It is one of the most powerful instruments our species has ever had. The ability to feel the pain of an event that has not happened yet and therefore avoid it. To die in your imagination 100 times so that your body doesn't have to die once. There is no other animal on this planet that suffers so precisely for things that have not occurred. A deer runs when it sees the wolf. You run from the wolf you invented on the way home. Now add sleep to this. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups noticed something strange. There is almost never a moment when every single person is asleep. Different ages keep different rhythms. Some fall asleep early, some stay up late, some wake before dawn. Researchers have suggested this may not be an accident. It may be a natural way of making sure that at night somebody is always awake. They called it the Sentinel hypothesis. And now, look again at the person who cannot fall asleep, because her mind keeps scanning for threats. In the modern world, we call that insomnia. In the tribe, it was called tonight, it's your watch. Here is the actual tragedy. The anxious brain did not break. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. It scans the dark for danger. It is extremely good at it. It has never once failed to find something. The problem is that there is no leopard in your dark anymore. There is just an unread email, an unpaid loan, and a person who hasn't texted back in 4 hours. Your alarm works perfectly. It has simply been wired to some very strange sensors. Now, the most uncomfortable paradox in human attention. Picture a person who cannot sit still for 40 minutes, who starts 5 things and finishes none, who forgets where she was going halfway there, who cannot force herself to do anything boring but can spend 12 straight hours on something that grabbed her, forgetting to eat, forgetting to drink, forgetting that other people exist. Modern school calls this a deficit of attention. Look at that word, deficit. It assumes there isn't enough attention, but watch her for one day and you'll see there is exactly as much attention as before. It is simply not where it was ordered to be. A desk, the window, a bird, a cloud, the teacher, the window again. The same person in a forest, a track, a broken branch, a scent, movement, prey. Imagine 2 ways of getting food. The first, sit in a field, do the same thing every day. The same motions, the same rhythm, 6 months of waiting between the seed and the meal. Who wins here? The person who can tolerate monotony. The person who can hold a single thought for half a year without losing it. The second, walk into an unknown forest. You don't know where the animal is. React to every rustle. Notice every bent stem. Abandon one trail the second a better one appears. Be ready to run at any moment, in any direction, without deciding first. Who wins there? The person who cannot tolerate monotony, whose attention jumps, who is pulled toward anything new, whose head turns before she has chosen to turn it. There is a popular version of this idea, sometimes called the hunter in a farmer's world. And I want to be honest with you. That is a metaphor, not a proven theory. We do not have solid evidence tying specific genes to hunting, and serious researchers treat the story with a great deal of caution. Anyone who tells you it's settled science is selling something. But the metaphor is pointing at something real, because there is one thing almost everyone with that kind of attention describes. It's called hyperfocus. It is not an absence of concentration. It is concentration so deep that the person disappears inside the task. She doesn't hear you calling. She doesn't notice hunger. She comes out 8 hours later holding something that did not exist before, blinking, slightly confused about which day it is. Think about what that combination actually is. A brain that cannot hold attention on the boring, and that can fall into a task nobody else finds interesting so completely that it comes back out as a new tool, a new route, a new idea. That is not a broken hunter. That is a machine for finding things nobody sent you to find. Every tool in that camp was invented by someone who got distracted from what they were supposed to be doing. In a tribe, you did not make that person sit. You sent her. Go look, go check, go find, come back and tell us what's out there. And now the question that should make you slightly uncomfortable. If you take a brain built for forests, for movement, for something new every 3 minutes, and you put it in a room with no windows for 8 hours a day, and you grade it on its ability to stay still, who exactly has the disorder here? The person or the room? Now, the person the tribe knew as strange. She didn't like looking people in the eye. She didn't get the jokes. She said true things at the wrong moment. She shut down when everyone was shouting and celebrating, and nobody could explain why the celebration hurt her. But she noticed what nobody else noticed. That this year, the berries on the southern slope came early. That the deer crossed the river at the same bend every single time. That this stone flakes cleanly and that one never does. That a spear point struck at a certain angle goes deeper. She did not know the word system. She simply saw systems everywhere. Where everyone else saw weather, she saw a pattern. Where everyone else saw luck, she saw a rule. The phase of the moon, a footprint, a star, the angle of a stone, a broken branch, the path of water, the same footprint again. Psychologists describe this kind of mind as having a strong pull towards systemizing. A drive to find rules, patterns, repeating structures where other people see noise. That trait is not a disease on its own. It is spread through the population like any other. Some people have more of it, some less. And in some people it is very strong and comes packaged with difficulty in social interaction and a raw, unfiltered sensitivity to sound, light, and touch. Now think about what that person was worth. Nothing was written down. There were no books, no maps, no archive. Every piece of information keeping the group alive, where the water is, when the herds move, how to shape a point, which plant kills and which plant heals, lived entirely inside human heads. And somebody had to be the head that does not forget. Somebody had to hold the catalog of the world. The river's dry. The group panics. One figure stands up without a word and starts walking. Everyone follows because nobody has a better idea. She leads them to water she remembered from childhood, from a season most of them weren't alive for. That person was not a good storyteller. She probably could not comfort a crying child. She may have annoyed everyone around her every day for her entire life. And in the worst year, she saved all of them. Here's the point. Sensitivity to detail and sensitivity to people are different abilities. They are not ranked. One is not the mature version of the other. The tribe needed both. So it kept, at the same fire, the one who could read a face and the one who could read a track. Neither of them fully understood the other. Both of them ate. The modern office needs both too. It simply hires through an interview that only tests the first one. Now the hardest part of this video, and I want you to stay with me to the end of it, not the middle. Sadness, not depression as an illness. We will get there in a minute. First, just sadness. The state where energy drops, where you don't want to move, where the same thought comes back, and back, and back. Evolutionary psychologists ask a strange question about it. Why would nature keep a state that shuts you down? Stillness is expensive. A creature that stops moving does not eat. Think about an animal. If it is hurt, it stops putting weight on the leg. Not because it is broken as a system, because movement right now costs more than stillness. Pain is not a malfunction. Pain is a prohibition. Now picture a person who has just lost someone from the tribe, or made a mistake that hurt others, or ended up in a situation where nothing she does changes anything. What does the body do? It turns off movement. It turns off appetite for anything new. It forces the mind back to the event, again and again, until something is understood. It looks like suffering. It is suffering. But functionally, it looks a great deal like forced analysis. Stop. Do not take the next step until you understand what happened to the last one. A tribe in which nobody ever grieved would be a tribe that never learned from its dead. But here I have to stop this story, because there is a line, and past that line, a beautiful evolutionary explanation becomes a dangerous lie. Clinical depression is not just deep analysis. An anxiety disorder is not just vigilance. Attention deficit is not just a hunter. When these things are destroying your life, taking your sleep, your work, your relationships, your ability to get out of bed, that is a real problem, and it needs real help. Not a reframe, not a beautiful metaphor, help. An evolutionary explanation answers one question: why does this capacity exist in a human being at all? It does not answer a completely different question: whether you need to do something about it right now. Those are two separate questions, and confusing them is cruel. So let's be precise. This video is not telling you that you are fine and nothing needs to change. It is telling you that there is no defective part inside you. There is a capacity that once had a place and now runs empty or runs far too hot. Which brings us to the actual turn. Let's count the time. Our species, in roughly its current form, has existed for about 300,000 years. Agriculture appeared around 12,000 years ago. Cities, a few thousand. Industrial factories, 200. Computers, 40. The smartphone with an infinite feed, less than 20. Fire, field, city, factory, office, screen, feed, feed, feed. If you compress the entire history of our species into a single day, everything since agriculture would take up the last hour. All of written language, a few minutes. And the smartphone shows up roughly half a second before midnight. Your brain did not catch up. It could not. Evolution does not run at the speed of a software update. It runs at the speed of death and birth, and it has not had nearly enough of either. Researchers call this evolutionary mismatch. The idea is simple and merciless. An organism beautifully adapted to one world suddenly finds itself in another, and its very best mechanisms begin working against it. You have already seen this somewhere else. The craving for sugar and fat was brilliant in a world where calories show up twice a month. In a world with a convenience store on the corner, it kills you. The mechanism did not change. The world did. And the thing that saved you now harms you, without doing a single thing differently. That is the whole horror of it. Nothing malfunctioned. Now put everything we have talked about into that frame. The Sentinel, whose vigilance saved her from a predator, now scans a social feed for threats. And she finds them. She always finds them. Because the feed was specifically built so that there is always something to find. The Scout, whose attention was supposed to leap between tracks, now sits in a room with no windows, evaluated on exactly one metric. Can he stay still? The Keeper of Systems, who remembered every detail of the world, now has to pass an interview that tests whether he can make effortless small talk about the weather. The one who stopped to understand a loss now has to be productive on Tuesday. None of these people broke. They were lifted out of the environment where their shape made sense, and dropped into an environment built roughly yesterday, roughly at random, and almost certainly not for them. We look at that puzzle piece and we say, what a strange piece. It is simply from a different box. And to be clear, the point is not to go back to the cave. Nobody is telling you to quit your job and live in a forest. It was cold there. It was frightening. And half the children never reach the age of 5. The point is to stop treating the shape of the hole as a law of nature. People made that hole. Recently, without paying very much attention. But I don't want to leave you with a story that is too warm, because it isn't finished. The tribe was not a paradise for strange people. In a small group where everyone sees everyone, difference could cost you your life. The anthropological record is full of cruelty toward those who fell too far outside. People exiled, accused of witchcraft, left behind when the group moved on. The same collective that found a place for everyone could decide there was no place left. There were no psychologists, there was no medicine, there was no word for disorder. But there was no word for support either. The one who could not sleep from fear sometimes simply did not sleep and burned out. The one who fell into hyperfocus sometimes simply vanished from the life of the group. The one who sat on the rock staring at the water sometimes never stood up again. Romanticizing the past is exactly the same mistake as despising the present. The truth sits in the middle, and it is uncomfortable. We no longer live in the world we were built for. And that is both the thing that wounds us and the thing that saves us. The same modern world that makes the Sentinel afraid of an email gave her medicine, therapy, and the chance to sleep without a leopard. The same world that put the Scout in a cubicle gave him the internet, where his leaping attention suddenly pays. The same world that does not understand the keeper of systems is quite literally built out of his work. We are not in heaven, and we are not in hell. We are in a very strange, very new place. And we walked into it carrying an old body and an old brain. The question is not whether you fit here. The question is what you are going to do about the fact that you don't. Let's go back to where we started. 3 in the morning. You're awake. The same brain. The same eyes that won't close. The same head that runs through threats, hunts for patterns, drifts towards something more interesting, stops and refuses to move on. That brain took a very long time to reach you. It came through ice ages, through famine, disease, murder, escape. Through children who did not survive, and nights when something really was looking back out of the dark. Every single person in that chain lived long enough to pass it forward. Millions of years. Not one break. Not one. And then the chain ends with you, at 3 in the morning, in a room with no predator in it. You are not an error in the system. You are the latest copy of a very old solution to a very old problem. And the fact that the problem changed does not make the solution bad. It makes it out of place. Finding your place is not the same thing as becoming normal. It is finding the dark that is worth watching, the forest worth scouting, the system worth taking apart, the water worth staring at until you understand it. The tribe would have found you a job, but there is no tribe, so now it is your job. Next time, we'll talk about why your brain invents dreams, and why it was doing it long before you had anything to see. Breathe. You are not here by accident.